Okay. Aloha mai kako. Welcome to this month's HLA Next Steps, which is focused on graphic novels. Today, we have a panel to talk about the basics of graphic novels and its current trends, to be followed by an open discussion with sharing about participants' collections and favorite titles. Our panelists are Kelly Ann DeLuna Campbell, Jennifer Vinzons, and Lara Gamboa. Kelly Ann DeLuna Campbell is the Access Services Librarian at the Edwin H. Mo'okini Library at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. Previously, she had worked in public libraries for almost a decade in positions from library assistant to a branch manager. Kelly was born and raised on Guam to an educator, moving to Hawaii to complete her higher education. She attended Kapiolani Community College, where she earned an Associates of Arts degree, and the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, where she earned her BA and MLIS degrees. Her interests include graphic novels, folklore, and video games. Jennifer Vinzons is one of the youth services librarians at the Kapolei Public Library. Her favorite part of collection development is being able to help purchase graphic novels and manga for children and teens at her branch, because she also loves reading them for herself. Lara Gamboa has been the Information Services Assistant at JABSOM's Health Sciences Library for the past year and a half, and is also currently a graduate student in UHM's LIS program. She says that the library's graphic medicine collection enriches the education of medical students, physicians, and patients by helping them gain a better understanding of their patients and improves health literacy for all. The combination of pictures and text increases recall of information, and like other forms of fiction, graphic medicine novels encourage empathy and lessen feelings of isolation in the reader. She says, this shift to collecting some non-academic materials is an opportunity to make health information more accessible and to connect with our community in new ways. We welcome our panelists as I now turn the floor over to them. Thank you.
All right. Aloha, everybody. Thank you very much, Lynette, for the amazing introduction. I feel really honored today to co-present with colleagues Jennifer and Lara. And we just want to go over a few housekeeping. So just so you know, just as Lynette mentioned, we will be having a Q&A at the end of our presentation. So we just ask that you please keep the questions to the end. I'll be moderating the chat. So if there's a question, I hope to redirect, and that way we can get the crux of our information, of our research, and then we hope to answer your question, or maybe what we present will have answered your question. So I'm going to share my screen real fast. Is my screen already shared? Let's find out. And hoping that everybody's having a good day today. It's Thursday, almost Friday. All right, there we are. So graphic novels and you today. I just want to mention something as we go into this presentation, and that is from a survey sponsored by Kodansha Publishers, which is a Japanese manga publishing company. 59% of school librarians reported opposition to graphic novels from teachers, parents, and others who didn't consider them real books. While there are censorship attempts, 18% of public libraries and 10% of schools have experienced challenges to graphic format works, but students' fervor for graphic novels is only building. So I just want to say that, keep that in your mind as we go with this presentation. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Lynette did a really nice introduction. So Jennifer, Lara, if you don't mind, I'm just going to skip past our lovely pictures.
You're done.
And okay, thank you. And Lara will be will tell us all about what is a graphic novel.
Thank you, Kelly. Again, hi, my name is Lara. So thank you everyone for being here and thank you HLA for having us. So I do have a couple of definitions of graphic novels here. So the first one is from Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, where he describes it as a juxtaposed pictorial and other images in deliberate sequence intended to convey information and or to produce an aesthetic response in the viewer. So I know that seems a little wordy. So I found a more simpler definition from the Oxford English Dictionary, where a graphic novel is a full-length story published as a book in comic strip format. And you can go to the next slide. So basically, a graphic novel is a medium like film or painting that is used as a way to express ideas. And it has a format that uses images and illustrations in a sequence. And sometimes there's text and words, like for example, there's a panel of a page in this graphic novel called Level Up, where they use words and text to tell their story. And sometimes there are no words or text and they just use illustrations to tell their stories, like in the top panel called from the graphic novel called Owly. So graphic novels aren't just limited to like superhero stories or like villain stories too. They can be about from any genre, from romance, science fiction, mystery, and so much more. And here I kind of wanted to touch on maybe like some people might have questions about if there's a difference between graphic novels, comics, manga. They are all very similar because they heavily use illustrations to tell their story. But I think there is some subtle differences between those. Like, I think with comics, they are more serialized. So they're usually published maybe like weekly or monthly. And sometimes you might be left like at a cliffhanger. So you might have to wait for the next comic to find out what's going to happen. And graphic novels are usually monographs. Sometimes they're sequels, but they usually kind of finish the story where you're not left at a cliffhanger. And then mangas are just Japanese comics where they're usually read from right to left. Okay, sorry, next slide. And I'm just gonna touch on our Japson Libraries collection. So our graphic novel collection, we focus primarily on graphic medicine. And this phrase was coined by Dr. E.M. Williams, who is a comic artist and a physician. And he describes this phrase as the intersection between the medium of comics and the discourse of healthcare. So graphic medicine is all the things a graphic novel is, but there is like usually a health, wellness, or disease theme or storyline that can help readers think and talk about health topics that may be complex or stigmatized. And I think I'm going to pass it on to Jennifer, who's going to talk about current trends.
Thanks, Lara. So some of the trends we're seeing currently, is a large-scale graphic novel sales growth. This was started during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. According to the NPD book scan, the first quarter of 2021 revealed a 29% increase in overall print sales in the US, books in general. But there was also a large growth of graphic novel sales, and 80% of that was manga. Another trend we're seeing are webcomics being published in print format. The largest platforms that host these webcomics are Webtoons and Tapas, which are both South Korean in origin, but feature creators from all over the world, and many of them are available in multiple languages. If you've heard of Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith or Batman Wayne Family Adventures by CRC Payne, those are examples of some original English webtoon series. And connected to this, we're now seeing more Mānoa or Korean comics. Many originated as webcomics. For example, series like Solo Leveling, True Beauty, Tower of God, etc. And these series are also gaining in popularity through anime and K-drama adaptations. And of course, children's comic books. For years, graphic novels aimed at children have been topping bestseller book lists. Think of creators like Raina Telgemeier, Dav Pilkey's Dogman series, etc. But I'm also seeing a lot of graphic novels for budding readers. These are like early elementary school age children from like ages 6 to 9. For example, there's series like Narwhal and Jelly by Ben Clanton and Pizza and Taco by Stephen Shaskin. Next slide.
All right, so Lara had a really interesting I thought was really interesting to highlight when she suggested that she wants to talk about graphic medicine. And I have heard of the phrase being tossed around. So Lara, you taught me something. I appreciate that. Thank you. And from that idea, it became I just wanted to just highlight what are special collections in our libraries. I mean, I never would have thought growing up that I would see graphic novels in a university library, and now I'm working in one, and now I see it. So I just want to bring to light that for the University of Hawaii at Hilo, we do have a graphic novel collection. And as a tidbit, we have 20 new graphic novels that were purchased with UH Hilo Seed Money Grants program funds in the spring of 2023. We also do have our graphic novel display, which is in our main lobby area. So it's something that is just I just think is really interesting, something to bring out. And next, I just we're just going to go down the line of just sharing a little bit about our unique collections.
Okay, yeah, so our collection of graphic medicine novels is still relatively small because we actually, I believe this kind of got up and running maybe a few years ago, so well before I even started my position. I believe my predecessor, she was a huge advocate for trying to get this going because she really wanted to because there are some topics that in graphic novels in medical education that are just so complex. Sometimes it's just really hard to describe it. So that's why some of these books are really helpful to our students. So we would love to try to continue to grow this collection of ours, but I guess we're still we're always looking for suggestions. We're also trying to figure out some sort of, I guess, policy or something, or some sort of what requirements we would need to actually have that book into our collection. But I think lately we've just been using the website graphicmedicine.org to look through book reviews that they do to see if they would fit our collection.
Okay, and then of course the public libraries were very early adopters of introducing graphic novels and manga into library collections. So here at the Kapolei Public Library, we actually have 3 graphic novel collections. We have one in the children's, we have one in the teen area, which is split between, we have our manga separated from graphic novels, and then adult has a section upstairs as well. So we have over 3,500 different graphic novel manga titles at our branch. We're one of the larger branches in system, but overall in the whole, in all 51 libraries in our system, we have about 11,500 when I search our catalog. So we have a wide variety. Yeah, for everybody. Next slide.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. We're gonna be now presenting on our individual favorites and recommended titles. Each person may want to highlight why they picked that title. Maybe it was a personal, maybe something that they personally liked, or they just want to share, why this is their recommendation. And first up, we have Lara. Thank you.
I feel like favorites and recommendations are always like a librarian's or any library staff's favorite part of their job. So for my graphic novels, the top three, they are novels that we have at our library. And I just really liked the story and that's kind of why I chose it. Like Level Up is actually a book that we got our EMI students to do an assignment on. So I think that's really cool because it's about kind of like the experience of going through medical school, and then they kind of touch upon how this family pressure of kind of following in the parents' footsteps. So not like it's relatable to me, but I know it would be relatable to our students. And I thought mental load was also kind of relatable because I know everyone has some sort of mental load about work, household chores, financial stuff, anything personal, and just kind of like it feels almost unfair when it's distributed into households. So the author kind of plays with this and its different themes. Like, for example, she kind of talks about women and going on maternity leave, and it's not a vacation. It's kind of like another full-time job. And then the rest is more just personal favorites because I like romance, so Heartstopper is a good one. Lore Olympus too, I think is a great graphic novel because I do like the retelling of Greek myth. And manga too. In our library, we actually don't have a lot of manga choices, but Cells at Work is what we do have because it does put a fun action spin on what can go on in your body. Because the main character is a red blood cell and she's just running around everywhere trying to get oxygen to different parts of the body. And yeah, and everything else is also personal favorites because they're all relatively short too. So I think it's kind of easy to just pick up and read. And if you just stop, it's like starting a whole nother story. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Lara. Shall we move on to the next slide? Good. All right, we're good. Okay, on to the next slide. And okay, so these are my recommendations. They're a bit of a combination of favorites and recommendation. Excuse me, I can't speak today. It's Thursday. Recommended titles. So Lara, she also had Lore Olympus on her list. I just want to point out that I'm in the publishing trends. I see that Greek mythology retellings are now like the big thing. And I see that especially in YA and new adult literature being published. The newest title that actually I'm reading right now, that is not a graphic novel, but I highly recommend it for in the new adult range, and maybe a few of your teenage patrons may be interested, would be Fourth Wing by Rebecca, I believe, Yaros. It takes it's like fantasy, dragons, gods, Lore Olympus, Greek mythology. I'm seeing a trend. Like you can't ignore it. So my recommendation is to pretty much like look at these folklore mythological retellings in literature and in graphic novels, and just see where it goes. But Lore Olympus is I believe an Eisner winner. It is a very lovely full color graphic novel. as Lara mentioned, in what is a graphic novel, we have pages, and I apologize. I wanted to keep my slides, my slide very like compact and everything, but the pages are full color, very almost minimal text. It's almost, you're almost reading it like a romance film. So that's something that I do want to highlight. I kind of want to move on to The Complete Mouse now, by Art Spiegelman. This is the complete edition. He did come out with 2 volumes separately, Mouse 1 and then Mouse 2. It's the retelling of what his father went through during the concentration camps during the Holocaust. And I read this first when I took a history class on the Holocaust back at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa. And I was amazed at, first of all, the professor assigning a comic book as a assigned reading. And second of all, he told us in our class that he had recently gone to a conference about the Holocaust, like other Holocaust scholars convened, other history teachers convened in this national forum. And he came back with information that the new generation, they don't care about the Holocaust. What they care about is Cold War. And so now you're getting this generational gap. People are losing they're no longer remembering what happened during the Holocaust. And that's a very, very scary thought, especially in our current political climate. So Mouse by Art Spiegelman, highly recommend. It is a bit, it can be a bit graphic inducing, no pun intended, but Marjorie Liu, I believe she's a former, I think she has a law degree, which was really interesting. Oh no, I'm frozen. Oh yes, I'm back. Thanks, Brian. Thank you. Marjorie Liu, I don't want to compare Monstrous and Mouse, but it's, I don't want to go into too much, but when you put slavery and people's lives into the mix, I feel it's a very different interpretation when you're reading an illustration versus text on a page. In the context of graphic novels versus literature, when people say, oh, this is not real literature, it is real literature, but I think on the surface level, people assume that when you're reading a text, it's very, this is academic, versus graphic novel is very childish, or because it needs illustrations. It's like you need to like hold their hand and illustrate something. That's not the case. That is not the case at all. So situations that's very graphic can be made graphic, and it almost sounds funny saying it like that. Moving on, oh, thank you. Closed captioning. Moving on to manga, Inuyasha is the pinnacle of what shoujo, which is young girls, like teenagers, preteen genre of manga. Like she's the pinnacle. She came out with that series and it just blew up in America. I mean, Hillary will tell you, especially when it comes to anime. Hillary can tell you. So highly recommend Inuyasha. Next up, I have Golden Kamui. This cover here, I highly recommend this series because the author did a lot of research on the Ainu culture. The Ainu is a very, very small population in Japan that's found north of Japan in Hokkaido. They're an indigenous group, but they're slowly seeing their culture being torn down by assimilation into Japanese society and culture. So the tattoos, the tribal wear, the cloths that they would weave, and the customs are slowly dying. But Golden Kamui kind of resurge that culture, and now we see the Ainu culture now more represented. And am I good? Okay. If it brings to the idea that if culture can be illustrated through graphic novels, if it can make it easier for readers to understand just by visually seeing this, then all the better. It shouldn't be regulated to just academic, to scholars, to just words on a page. If we can show that through art, through expressions, then I think we have a leg up, especially when demonstrating and showing every time. Especially when you're presenting. I didn't want to take up too much time, so I moved on so Jennifer can start presenting. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna just put in the chat because of what Kelly shared this at the beginning of the presentation. You can open the slides meanwhile, but Markham Public Library talks about some of the benefits for graphic novels for kids for all ages, but actually they build vocabulary, build visual literacy and comprehension, and they engage reluctant readers. And of course, I think all of us librarians are kind of familiar with those types of benefits that you often have to share with the parents or grown-ups that come with their kids and are trying to direct them away from graphic novels. It's okay to read graphic novels. Let me see. Do we have our slides back up?
Not yet.
Meanwhile, I just wanted to preface by saying I wanted to share a few middle grade appropriate manga titles. Manga like graphic novels are published for all ages, like kids, teens, adults. Some of it can be pretty intense, and I know a lot of librarians sometimes they feel overwhelmed with manga. And while there aren't a lot of children's manga available in English, besides stuff like media tie-ins, Pokemon, Miraculous Ladybugs, Star Wars, etc., I usually like to recommend the pet-themed manga because most of those are rated all ages by the publishers. And I've noticed a ton of like cat-themed manga recently, and they're popular with all age, like everyone loves pets. But the first one I want to talk about today is Witch Hat Atelier. It's written and illustrated by Kamome Shirahama. And I'll just let you read the slide. But in this manga, Coco is a girl with a simple dream. She wants to be a witch. But everyone knows that magicians are born, not made. And Coco was not born with the gift of magic. Resigned to her unmagical life, Coco is about to give up on her dream until the day she meets Quifree, a mysterious traveling musician. And the next slide, I just wanted to share some samples of the art because it is pretty gorgeous. And for those of you not familiar with manga, it reads right to left, and that's just to preserve the original art. The story itself is spellbinding, and its magic system I felt was pretty unique. It's a lush fantasy, perfect for all ages, upper elementary to adult. So if you're looking for a Harry Potter alternative or something for Studio Ghibli film fans, this is your manga. And we can go to the next slide. I have Blue Box by Koji Miura. It's currently at 12 volumes in Japan. This one, the publisher rates as ages 13 and up. And in this story, freshman badminton player Taiki admires upperclassman basketball star Chinatsu from afar, but he doubts that she sees him in the same way. Does this sports cross love have a chance? And you can go to the next slide. And this wholesome manga has a great balance of action from the sports scenes and slice of life, just following teen athletes and their pursuit of various goals as they balance school, sports, and maybe romance. All the characters are gems, and I want to protect Taiki with my life. He's precious. He's not just a jock. And I'm really, really loving this one so far. All right, and next. I also wanted to showcase The Promised Neverland. And this one is written by Kayu Shirai and illustrated by Posuka Demizu. This one is complete at 20 volumes. It is rated older teen, so 16 and up by the publisher, but I found it to be kind of, if you've read the Hunger Games book, like that kind of intensity level. I think they rated it because a little bit higher than normal because the main characters are so young. But in this series, 11-year-old Emma lives without a care in the world until discovering a dark secret about the orphanage she calls home. Now, her only option is to escape. But can she and her best friends, Norman and Ray, the smartest kids in Gracefield House, devise a way to flee with all of their siblings? This riveting award-winning manga combines the psychological thriller, mystery, and dystopian genres with a tinge of horror to craft an utterly engrossing story. And then if you go next slide, you can see a sample of the art. When I heard about the anime adaptation, I thought it would be too scary for me because I'm kind of a wimp with horror stuff. But I decided to give it a chance, and the first season was so good that I had to find out what happened after. So, of course, I read the manga, and everything just gets ramped up even more. I really, really enjoyed this one. But pro tip, I wouldn't recommend watching season 2 because the show diverges a lot from the manga. So watch season 1 if you do watch the anime, or just read all the manga. All right, next. And so last, so this is my full like rec list. You can probably screenshot it later when they have the recording up. But I also want to highlight some locally published graphic novels. The first one is Haku and Sam by Shane Petosa Siegel, who lives and grew up Kailua side. And this one is, like I mentioned in the current trends, this one's aimed at 6 through 9-year-olds, so that kind of emerging independent readers. We're seeing a lot of graphic novels for kids aimed at those younger readers now, so that's exciting to see. And also, Christopher Carvalho's company Mana Comics has published several series over the years, starting with Amakua. So he has Sister Shark, and then last year, or earlier this year, I believe, he did a graphic novel biography on Kamehameha. And then I have more recommendations as well. But if not, we can go to the next slide.
So we're gonna leave this slide up. This is kind of like our last slide. We have recommended resources that you guys can check out. If you have more questions, if you're interested in collection development, if you're interested in learning more about what is a graphic novel, what's the separation between manga, manhwa, the different types of platforms where you can view these comics, these graphic novels. We have books, and we have, if you're interested, if your position requires you to purchase books and other resources, then we have a list of reviews. These are magazines and websites. A lot of them are free, except for, I believe, the published ones like School Library Journal, Kirkus Reviews, and Publishers Weekly. But oftentimes you may be able to find the stars, the highlighted reviews for free. And then on to our right is our contact and our social media. So if you ever want to reach out to us individually, you may do so. And with that, so I'm just going to leave it onto this page, and we can now open up the floor for questions. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for your patience. I apologize again for freezing a lot, but yeah, we are ready for those questions. Get it. Come at us. And it looks like in the chat, I thought, while people are thinking about questions, I just want to bring up Brian about the possibility of a graphic law collection. Ooh, interesting. Very interesting about that.
All right, and I'm just typing out, I mentioned pet and cat manga, so I just listed a bunch of titles in the chat if you want to copy paste those and save them for later. But some of them are like G Sweet Home, A Man and His Cat, Yuzu the Pet Vet, with a dog and a cat, every day is fun, The Evil Secret Society of Cats, and more.
Very cute. Very cute, those ones.
So I have a question to start off your question and answer session. How do you make your selections? Like for at UH Hilo, what do you look at when you buy your graphic novels? Like what subject areas are you looking at?
So for Hilo, I have not had the privilege or the honor to have officially seen my orders purchased and on the shelf just yet, but I have put in my selections, and the way I select it is how I would select the graphic novels for when in my previous position as a public services librarian in the Hawaii State Public Library system. I look at, and kind of like I mentioned a little bit in my personal recommendations slide, is that I look at trends. Is this going to be something that I can sell to students, possibly faculty, to put into their curriculum? Can I sell it to them? Am I going to see this on the shelf? Is this going to be popular in the next 5 years? Does it have certain tropes or genres that, again, may appeal to college age, new adults, and also, again, staff and faculty on campus? So very similar to how I would curate and decide to purchase for the public library side. But if Jennifer, Lara, if you have anything that's different from my methodology, please feel free to jump in.
I think mine is pretty similar. Like we'll look at different reviews, and then I know like Stacy mentioned it in comments, like sometimes it's hard to find reviews from manga, especially for newer title or like in English, like just professional reviews. They have like SLJ has School Library Journal has started doing more and stuff, but you don't always find them. I've found that Anime News Network does some pretty good manga reviews. No Flying, No Tights, I believe, is run by Librarians, and they do a lot of manga reviews also. They also do graphic novels. Anime News Network is kind of just anime, manga, anything like Japanese fandom related. So they won't just have manga, but I believe you can like filter out and just search for, I think they have a tag. You can just look for the manga reviews or just type in the series in their search bar and see if they have any reviews up. Yeah, I also look at I do kind of look at like reader reviews as well. And so stuff like sometimes I'll look on Goodreads and see if people have talked about it or things like that. If there are like adaptations, like if there's a film or TV show or streaming show or anime or something like that that's coming out based on it. If that series is really hot or really popular, a lot of times I'll try and get the equivalent graphic novel or manga version of it.
Thank you.
Checking the chat right now, and let's see. So Kimo, I'll try go over the questions, but Kimo has an interesting question. What is TPDBs? Oh my gosh, TPBs. It stands for trade paperbacks. And trade paperbacks are usually like the individual issues. We see this mostly in our publishing right now. We see this mostly with American comics, where you get the little individual issues, usually like 10, 15 pages, and then it's published together as a single volume, as a trade paperback. And so usually that's what we aim to purchase. These items can go for between like $17.99 to as a paperback, to a hardcover edition, that's probably like $24.99, or it can go as high as like $34.99, depending if it's a special edition, if it's a special cover, like if it has like a book jacket, then that's what we're looking at. So sorry, Kimo, I hope I answered your question on what a TPB is.
You did. Things they don't teach in libraries.
Sweet. Thank you. And also it's good for longevity of your collection. we try to get those trade paperbacks. If we're unable to, then the individual issues, but you also have to consider your processing, the materials used to make sure that that your individual issues will stay alive on the shelves longer, because we know they are paper, it's individual issues, they're only being held together by staples. So something to consider when you're looking into purchasing. I got a question up here, a basic question. How do you search for graphic novels in the catalog? Lara, Jennifer, do you want to take any of this on?
Do they mean like the public library catalog, or
Yeah,
there's a
we can go
subject
with that.
heading for graphic novels, which is the one I pulled for the stats on in my slide for on our different sections. So you can search graphic novels as a subject heading. And I believe that will pull up most of it.
There's an interesting comment from Amy Saxton, and she says that UH Hilo's English department offers a graphic novels course, and we also solicit suggestions from the professor for that course and to use those subject matter experts.
Yes, Amy, thank you. Yes, please talk to your patrons, talk to your staff, talk to faculty if they have any input. I mean, you can always say that, there's no guarantee. We got to check our budget. We got to check our funding. We have to check, like, even if our shelf space, but making those connections with people outside of your library is also really important. It could be like a series that I missed, and it's like, oh wow, did you hear about this? And I'd be like, whoa, did not know that, but tell me more about that. And that just leads to a conversation. So do not ignore your constituents. And I see that Kimo has raised up his hand.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a question about challenges. Have any of you, experienced those? I think just, given their obvious graphic nature, they're kind of ripe for, certain kind of book challenges. So I'm just wondering if any of you have experienced that, and if so, how you've dealt with it.
Ooh, who wants to go first?
I mean, I guess I can go first because as far as I know at our branch, we haven't really had that problem because, as I mentioned, we do have an adult graphic novel collection upstairs with adult fiction that the adult librarians are in charge of purchasing for and stuff. So there are a few that series that there's a series called Chainsaw Man that is very popular right now. It is rated OT 16, so older teens, ages 16 and up, but the rest of I work with a youth services staff with two other librarians, and we felt like it was a little bit more intensely graphic than we wanted. So we asked if the adult librarian, if they'd be willing to purchase and put it in the adult graphic novel collection because it is still a fairly popular series, and she agreed to do that. So at the library I'm at currently, I'm pretty lucky because if something seems too intense, or we can see if upstairs will take it, kind of thing. I know a lot of libraries in a lot of other libraries I've worked at, we had the graphic novel collection we had in the teen area. We didn't have a separate adult one, so there were stuff like The Walking Dead in the YA section, and that is a pretty intense series. If I could do it again, maybe I would separate it out, but it was a teen patron who actually suggested us purchasing more of them. So I guess it depends on your community. And then the children's graphics are usually separated out too, but I think adult graphic novel collections are becoming more common, especially as patron interest grows in that age category. So I think a lot, maybe if the libraries have space, you'll start seeing more of those in the future.
Personally, I have dealt with a challenge. It was more of a conversation. It was, I don't know if anybody has heard of Ghost in the Shell, but Ghost in the Shell had recently, excuse me, not recent, but a few years ago had came out with a special edition hardcover because the live action movie came out with by Scarlett Johansson. Not my personal favorite, but it is Ghost in the Shell. So I consider it like a classic quintessential of that anime when we look at history. And I did have to deal, I really had to separate my emotions and go into the professionalism that this book was requested by a patron. This book, we did have the funds for it. It was requested by a teenager. So I really had to work with staff on where we can put this. So for somebody who may not be familiar with the series, but I am, they can just look at the cover and go, oh my gosh, that is not what I want to see right next to Yokai Cats. Forgot that. Sorry. It's a really cute title. Or something that's really, really cute. So the compromise was to put yeah. So the compromise was to not take it off the shelf, but to actually put it in closed shelves. So a patron can still access it. They can still borrow it. It just wouldn't be in a high traffic area. So yeah, that's just I guess my suggestion is just to assess your architecture, your library architecture, work with your staff, put yourself in their shoes. They may not know, they may not it may just be something miscommunication, or they just are not aware that this was something a patron wanted. So just yeah, again, just something to consider. Before I move to Stacy, because Stacy has her hand up, Lara, do you have anything to add to a book challenge that you dealt with or are looking out for, preparing for?
Well, actually, I haven't really come across any challenges that I've had. Maybe it's because our collection is dealing with such a niche topic, because we cater a lot to the medical students, and I really think that these topics are very beneficial for them, but I haven't really heard any complaints about it, so.
All right. Cool. Very good. Stacy Bisgard, you got your hand up. How can we help
Hey
you?
there. I just wanted to say that I had it wasn't an official challenge, but it was a challenge to a graphic novel that we had on display at the Kailua Kona branch. And it was called The Diary of a Teenage Girl, an Account in Words and Pictures by Minnie Getz. And it is based on if you don't know, it's based on it's not a memoir, but it's reflections, I guess, and based on some true events, but not considered a memoir. So it's in fiction, but it's about a teenager who basically has an affair with her mother's boyfriend. So there are some very graphic parts of the graphic novel, and it was on display, and a patron came up. I wasn't the one that dealt with it. Patron came up to our circ desk and was very upset, and before the circ desk person could actually say anything about it, they stormed off and left. So it wasn't a completed discussion or anything, but we ended up documenting it and everything, and telling the state librarian about it. So it was an interesting thing, and we looked at the book, and I have actually read it, and just looked at the collection development policy. We decided to keep it in YA, but just take it off of display. We haven't had any other questions about it. But at Kailua Kona, because of the size, we do have a graphic novel section in kids, also in teens, and then we have adult as well. And so that's something like Kelly, you were talking about the Ghost in the Shell. It was in YA, and just because of the community here, I was thinking, I feel like this is going to be a problem series if I leave it here. So we just moved it over to adults, because really the people that are reading it are mostly the ones that remember it from when it came out. And so for us, it made sense to move it over there. And so that's just some of the things we've done is move stuff around. And at other branches I've worked at, we've done the same thing. So, and then like you all talked about, which is great, is telling people and explaining how the collection development policy works and how we select things and who requested the book and why it's here and what it really means. So anyways, but thank you guys for doing this. So that's my little 2 cents. That's what happened here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stacy.
Stacy also had a question that was posted in the chat a while
Oh,
back.
excuse me.
Um,
Sorry.
Are any of the sites you listed on the slides specific to manga? I'm always looking for some help on selecting popular manga to add to YA collection.
And I think it got answered. I'm good to go because there was a couple of replies about it. So thank you.
Just to voice it out, the recommended to answer Stacy's question about selecting popular manga would be checking out School Library Journal, the Young Adult Library, oh my gosh, YALSA, and No Fly No Tights and Anime News Network. I see Hillary raised her
Sorry,
hand.
I'm really
Yeah, what was
sorry.
it?
I can't find out where to raise my hand
No, it's
on
all
the
good.
thing.
I see
Sorry.
you.
So that's why I'm just going like this.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted
It's
to
hard
also.
to find. It's under
Okay.
reactions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I was like, okay. No, I just also wanted to quickly mention, with the challenges and things, really don't let that stop you from getting a title. Obviously you can look at content, you can look at, how should I say it? More like, I call it sort of like the theft possibility, certain things like that. But I wouldn't really let challenges stop you from getting a graphic novel title just because, well, especially now, with the odd challenges that are coming up, and it has nothing to do with, a graphic novel or the pictures or things like that. Because yeah, I've also dealt with, a few, and you just respond to any challenge. Because, I mean, graphic novel or non-graphic novel book, I have received challenges, and yeah, you just approach them the same way. So to say that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Hillary.
Hillary's
And
one
if
of the OGs too, that got added graphics and manga to the library. So
yeah, I was gonna say anyone in Hawaii State Public Library, email Hillary. She is the brain, the hive of manga and anime. So thanks for being here, Hillary. I hope we do you proud.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, this is really great. Thank you.
So we're coming up on 5 minutes to 1 o'clock. This was a nice lunch, everybody. Oh, sorry, we have Hawaii Library Association raising their hand. It's Gwen.
Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
I know I follow Kelly on Goodreads. So I get to see all of the things that she's reading, or maybe not all of them, but a lot of the things that she's reading. But are any of our other presenters on Goodreads where we could follow you?
I am. I'm the artist librarian on Goodreads as well, but I'm really, really bad about updating it unless I have to review something. So and they have the book, the yearly challenge. They have such a nice graph now, and I like never update my good. I'm always like, oh, I'm gonna do that because I really want to see what my graph looks like at the end of the year. And then I'm like, oh, it's November already. So I do keep a running list. But it's probably best to just email me. But feel free, I'll follow you back on Goodreads if you add me.
If we want to put it in, if you're comfortable putting it in the chat, then by all means, by all means. And yes, Brian, you bring up a good point. Goodreads is a great place to include in your research when doing collection development, because there could be some things that the agents or the publishers missed. Missed. They're trying to sell it to you. Think about that. But if you read a review from the readers who get the advanced review copies, then that could be something to help you determine where to put your money at, right?
And I usually use it more for fiction, but I have noticed that there are a lot of more like reader reviews of graphic novels before they release. I think it's because they're available on like Edelweiss and what's the big one that I'm drawing a blank on right now?
What, Ingram?
That big E like oh man, it's all E arcs. And I'm totally
NetGalley.
drawing a blank. NetGalley, yes, NetGalley.
NetGalley.
I've seen a lot more like for like the first volume of a manga or something when they launch new series, they'll put it up on NetGalley or Edelweiss. And so sometimes you will see a lot more reader reviews for those titles, even if it hasn't released yet.
You got something?
That's funny. Sorry, I want
Yeah.
to kind of really, really fast.
Yeah.
You can just say yes or no, but in Hawaii, because you guys started out this presentation with sort of like a 101, what is graphic novels? Do you think in Hawaii everybody already knows? No,
Oh, that's a good
honestly.
question.
I mean,
That's a good
no, yeah,
question.
I mean, even if
I
you
want,
think about it in the library field.
yeah. I think 60-40.
Oh, okay.
60-40.
Okay.
60-40 being like 60 do know.
Uh-huh.
40 may know on the surface level, and they
Uh-huh.
just need to have a little bit more time, like have like a 10 webinar such as this by HLA, and just to get the more nitty-gritty.
Okay.
But I think 60-40, I think people are well aware. Yes.
I
Okay.
think a lot of especially with manga, like a lot of us have grown up with it, especially since Hawaii is so close to Asia.
Yeah.
So I think compared to like maybe librarians on the continent or something, like I think we're probably more familiar with manga and graphic novels and things like that. But I think definitely a lot of the newer librarians, the younger librarians are maybe have grown up reading it or are a lot more familiar or more comfortable with it than maybe some people who didn't grow up reading. Yeah.
Lara, what do you think?
I kind of have to agree. Like I know growing up for me, manga was definitely something I'm more familiar with. So hoping, it's something that a lot of people are familiar with on the island or in the state.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Wow. Everybody, thank you very much for a stimulating conversation. It is now 1 o'clock. Gwen, what is our next step?
Oh, well,
What do we do next?
Our next step is to tell you all of our panelists mahalo. Thank you so much for presenting today and for sharing your knowledge and your excitement about graphic novels. And we really appreciate having you here. And Lynette, did you have any final words that you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank our panelists for the great session today, and just a few announcements before we close our HLA next steps for the calendar year. We will be taking a break in December, and there's no HLA next steps next month, but we'll start up again in January with many exciting things in the coming year. So we hope you look out for our announcements. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for attending. I'm going to stop the recording.